Good evening to everyone in the room, and thank you for attending tonight's Zoom meeting. Let me introduce myself. My name is Rouli Gitamarta, and I will be your presenter tonight. Before we get straight to the topic, I think we all in this room know what electricity is, and probably we have some experience using that. Maybe we use it for charging our phones, playing, or for operating some appliance. But what if suddenly we cannot use electricity? Because of that, tonight I will present you about what would happen if electricity stopped working. Without further ado, I will explain to you the line. First, we will talk about electrification ratio in Indonesia. The second is about electricity for daily use. The third is the incident of power outage 2019 in Venezuela. And for the fourth is the real example of living without electricity. And for the fifth, I will give you my conclusion. According to Joko Widodo, nearly all households in Indonesia has electricity, and it's already reached an electrification ratio of 98.05% as of September 2019. And this means that 98.05% of households in Indonesia can use electricity for 24 hours. So if we can use electricity, what are we going to use it for? Lucky for you, because in the next slide, I will gonna explain this more. In our life, we use many devices that need electricity. And I will give you some of the examples in our daily life. First, as a household appliance, we use a fridge to keep our food cold, lining that provide light, or pumps water so that we can have a clean water. For the second is about safety in the community. Some people use speakers, cameras, and monitoring devices so that their community can be safe. And the third is electric device that everyone have and use. That is a phone, a laptop, a tablet, or a Wi-Fi. And for the final is the fourth is transportation. But in Indonesia, not many people use transportation based on electricity. But some of the companies in Indonesia have a program to electrifying their vehicle. And one of the example is Goret Electric. From this example that I was explaining about, one way or another, we are dependent on electricity. But suddenly there is no electricity. Maybe the first time you will notice there is no electricity is from the light. The light is off. And when you try to the outside, the street light also go off. What can you do? When you have a phone, you can use the phone for the lightning. But eventually, as the time goes by, your battery phone will be depleted. For people that can live without a phone, this momentary blackout is not a problem. Actually, is they can enjoy it. For example, watch the night sky with your loved one. Because there is a blackout, you can see the star more clearly, since there is no light pollution. But if this happens more than one day, it will become a big problem. One of the real examples of a power outage more than 15 days is in Venezuela. According to The Guardian, this incident happens on March 7, 2019. And the cause of the blackout is because automatic attack as an act of sabotage. But a former electricity executive at Venezuela, National Electric Corp, told CNN that the power outage at the power station was most likely the result of old equipment and bad maintenance. Maybe you are wondering, what kind of power grid that they use in Venezuela? Venezuela uses a hydroelectric power grid that supplies about 80% of the country electricity. Because of that, when there is an error in the power grid, the country will have a massive outage. Several problems will appear after the power outage in Venezuela. First, people collect water from a leaking pipeline because there is no power to pump the water. Second, there are food shortage because the food is eating. Even some store owners simply give them away, so it won't be go to waste. And the third is a gas pump cannot function. So people push a car without a fuel to one of the few gas stations, just like picture, that they have their own electric generator. And for the fourth, there is a limited power in the hospital. And according to the GNO's Doctor for Health and Provida, at least 43 people died during the first wave of blackout across Venezuela. And for the fifth is crime rate is increasing because people were looting. Just like I mentioned before, there is a shortage about food, and because of that, people were looting. So the people looting are detained by the security force. After we see the incident for outage in Venezuela, we can see that we are too dependent on electricity. And when that luxury is taken away from us, we are extremely vulnerable. But in some cases, some people can still live without electricity. For example, Adat Amatua village. This village is located in South Sulawesi, Indonesia. The community is divided into two groups, outsiders and insiders. The insiders live in the forest without electricity and use a horse for transportation. Their food, medicine, and water intake came from the nature or their livestock. The insiders firmly held their tradition because they believe modernization is a bad influence and will alienate them from the nature and their ancestors. Taking all of this into account, a long-term power outage will bring more problems to the country because we are too dependent on electricity. And from this, we can learn that we cannot rely on just one power grid. We need to balance it so that when there is an error, we can still have a backup. But some people can live without electricity since from the start they don't use it. Well, it's time towards attention. Thank you to everyone in this room for lending some of your time and see you in another time. Thank you.